Okay. So I'm just gonna say straight out, this one was. I've done a whole ton of VOD reviews this last couple of days. This one so far has been the hardest one to actually formulate feedback for. And the reason for that is, even though it's very clear to me what the problems are, the difficult part is it feels as though it's hard for me to give feedback that will actually help you. Right? Like, I can point to the things that you're doing wrong, and that, like, one of the big things is the team comp, right? And to me, the impression that I get from your players is that the team comp is probably something that isn't going to be changing, right? Or if it is, it's like it's not going to be changing. Like, I'm not going to tell you to play something standard, right? Like, that's obviously not what you're after. And the frustrating thing is, like, and that's kind of for good reason, right? Like, you've got a good flingser, the comp, at least in my mind, like, when I first saw the comp, I thought, oh geez, this is a Gluger, and then I thought about it for a moment, and I thought, hang on a minute, so if I have a Gluger on my team, if that's like something that's just immutable, I have to deal with the fact that I have this Gluger on my team. The comp that you guys have is actually not bad for like having a Gluger. Gluger's like an extremely selfish weapon. It doesn't really contribute very much to the team aside from occasionally killing things. It doesn't like paint or anything like that, basically, is what I'm saying. But like, you've at least got the K Gluger, like, you aren't using the bloody yellow thing. And the team, hypothetically, can supply the Gluger with the things that it needs. That having been said, in trying to sort of figure out like what I'm going to say, it sort of all comes back to, like, firstly, the comp being the problem, which I'm trying not to just lump everything on the comp, because it seems as though that's not going to change too easily. But second, all the feedback that I'm then getting that isn't the comp is basically like stuff that isn't really going to help. Like, I can tell you that you're doing something wrong, but then it's like, okay, you were doing something fundamentally wrong. I'm just going to leave it there. I'm not going to tell you how to fix it, right? Like, that's sort of, you see what I mean? But, so what I've decided to do is basically go over the, so you had a couple of difficulties with TC, and you had some difficulties with zones, and you didn't really play the other modes. I'm not about to VOD review your random league games. So, on zones, you guys had issues with the enemy team, like, retaking the zone out from under you. Like, there was some egregious situation where a tri-slosher of all things solo capped against 3 of you, and then that actually, they just didn't lose the zone. And then they got, like, down to 15 points or some noise like that. I might be getting my wires crossed here, but, like, it was egregious. Like, it is the word. But again, like, it's like, okay, well, I can tell you to, like, recognize who needs to be playing, like, on the zone and then preventing that sort of stuff from happening. I can tell you guys to pay more attention to the game state and the way it's developing. I can tell you guys to be better at assessing what the enemy team is trying to, like, what their goal is as a team, like, what they're thinking. But again, it's like, if I'm going to explain all this, I'm going to be here for an hour, right? And we're not going to do that. So, I will take a look at the zones game, the last zones game that you guys played, the one you guys lost on, because that one, basically, what I'm going to focus on here is, there is a thing that you guys seem to be doing where you've decided you're going to push, but the coordination before the push is lacking, so that when everyone kind of holds forward, there's no coordination. So in other words, like, there is... And this is also a frustrating thing too, because part of the reason you guys do it is because the enemy team just runs someone in who dies, and then it's like, oh, well, we gotta pick, it's go time. And it's like, no, it's too early, you gotta pick. You can go in, but it's like, you don't have any map control yet. So you're kind of going in, but you're gonna lose people, and you're get hit by a spawn swing on the way back, right? Like, you're gonna go in, you're gonna lose people, and then the guy who died and gave you the push in the first place is gonna respawn and actually gonna make them, like, it's gonna give the enemy team a way back in, because they're gonna be back to, like, 4v2 or 4v3 or whatever. So yeah, like, when I say this VOD review is, like, really, it was really hard for me to figure out feedback, this is what I'm talking about. Anyway, now that I've spent about 5 minutes telling you what I'm not going to tell you, let's take a look at these snowballs. So I think, and again, this is going to be blaming the comp a bit, one of the issues with a comp like this is that there is very little, it's basically a very slow comp in terms of killing things. So what I mean by that is, if the enemy team, like, runs at you with, just imagine, like, the enemy team's just running 4 T-Techs at you, the damage that your team is outputting is actually not high enough to stop that from overwhelming you. And that leads to a bunch of different things. It leads to, for example, when you guys do go in, quite often your cleanup on the enemy team is so slow that the enemy respawners are coming in behind you. This happened a lot on the Skipper game. The problem with, again, the problem with me just telling you how to telling you how to fix that is it's also a Skipper problem, and I'm trying to give you general feedback that can actually just help you, as opposed to, like, here's how you improve on Skipper. But also, like, because your team is because your team comp kills so slowly, when you guys pivot, like, so you clean up and you pivot to the enemy team's respawners, but then the pivot speed is really slow. So, like, the Glooger has to roll to do damage. Now, again, to be fair, the Glooger is using a main power build, which is the one Glooger build that actually has some semblance of kill speed to it, because you can do your, like, standing shot into roll and actually kill things that are relatively, like, reactively quite well. But it's still slow, right, compared to a Squeezer or a Nautilus or a, even a K-Pro or, like, a Bamboo, that kind of like instant response kind of thing. The other thing is, like, you've got, Squeezer and Mini a lot of the time. Like, the Mini is also a weapon that, like, is usually running, usually setting itself up, and then, like, over time it'll just sort of creep forward, and the enemy team, if they try to disrespect it, it's like you walking into a wall of paint and it just kind of shoots you. And with the Squiffer, it's sort of like it's kind of like the Bamboo kind of deal. But then that leads to another problem with the team comp, which is, like, when you guys switch from Squiffer to Mini, the function of the Flingser has to change. So Flingser is typically played as a mid-range kind of turfing weapon. So, like, let me just, jeez, I said I was going to look at TC, and I'm just not doing that, am I? So there was a situation like here. I think this was it. Was it here? Or was it sooner than this? It might have been sooner than this. Basically, like, you were sharking and you shouldn't have been. Yeah, I think it was sooner than this. Is this it? Yeah, I think this is it. Okay, so, like, for example, the typical way that you would have a Flingser play is you don't shark. You see this and you're just painting the top side of mid. Like, you come out and you just paint all this, right? Like, especially when there's people there, because what that's gonna do, what that's gonna do is it's gonna, like, make this guy hesitate in going in, and it's gonna sort of delay them and give you guys time to recover on the bottom side. So your Flingser is usually just mid-range painting, right? With the Mini, you need mid-range paint. With the Squiffer kind of does what the mid-range paint, the Squiffer does the mid-range paint for the Flingser in a sense, and the Flingser can play more like a spot roller. I'm not going to tell you to change that, because it seems as though, like, I'm quite happy with the way you're playing Flingser. You've kind of got a good balance to it. It's just that there's occasional moments like this where you should be doing one thing, like, you should be doing the other part of Flingser, and you're doing, like, the sharky part, and you're supposed to be doing the painty part. Which is, like, again, it's not really the kind of feedback I'm going for here. But yeah, so, like, with the Squiffer to Mini change, there is, oh geez, you guys played against 2016. That's really funny. where were we? We were looking at... It's a TC game. Where is it? Here it is. So, that's kind of part of it. Another thing is, so like, take this sort of situation here, for example, this opening. Because basically this just snowballed really quickly after this. Your team kind of isn't in positions to help each other. You're kind of in a sort of a concave, and you've got like, you're sort of building specials, whatever, but it feels as though if someone runs at anyone, I think the only person who's being covered here is the Gluga, right? Because like obviously if someone runs in here and shoots the Gluga, then you're going to be able to drop on them. The thing is, nobody's going to do that. Like, when has anyone ever done that, right? Like the right side is really exposed, the bunker is really exposed, and I have no idea where the Zap is. And so that's kind of step one of the problem. Step two of the problem is because you guys are so sort of slow at killing things, this is the symptom of that, right? Fights like this, where you're kind of going in, but because it takes so long to finish one guy off, the other guy comes in and just cleans up, right? Like the K-Gal is going to kill things very, very, very quickly. And you can just go, you know, kill to kill to kill to kill. None of the weapons on this team, aside from maybe the Zap, can do that. And that leads to these kinds of issues. Then, on defense. So defense is the biggest issue for you guys for sure, on TC at the very least. Firstly, you've got people dropping down here. This is not the play. It sort of seems as though, like, the fact that you got like 3 people dropping down here makes me think that you're trying to run up the stairs, basically. Which is, like, messing with me because... partly because the map is just not being opened. Like, I know I just saw it there, but, like, it's hard for me to keep track of the game from this POV, which means that you have no shot of keeping track of the game from this POV. This situation here is, there is a K-Gal on your right side, and you're dropping down to go to the stairs to defend from stairs. That says 2 things to me. One, it says that you guys are overestimating how close you can get to the tower when it's pushing. Like, you're overestimating, like, oh, well, it's the first checkpoint, like, we can defend from stairs, right? No. You're respawning when it's at the first checkpoint, right? They're going to be pushing up while it's at the first checkpoint because there's no resistance here. The only reason that you guys, like, you're probably thinking to yourselves, like, oh, well, you know, when we're pushing to the tower, there's usually people at the stairs to sort of stop us. There is nobody at the stairs here. The enemy team is going to move in. Like, while you're respawning, there's nobody stopping them from just swimming up through here. Likewise, there's nobody stopping them from, like, pushing in here. Like, you've got, who's this here, Zap. Zap is not really going to hold people back. It's a Zap, it is short range, it's going to get bullied by basically anything, and it has the low ground, so it's like a triple whammy of just, you know, dealing with this K-Gal that's going to bully it out. That in turn leads to, like, so what you needed here, for example, is just Flingza, Squiffer, go top right, just get rid of this K-Gal, and then you can sort of, like, you need to clean house before you take the tower, right? You need to get this guy out of here, and the reason is because if you try to defend from here, he's going to come in from behind you, which is literally what happens. So you need to kill this guy first, screw the tower, that doesn't matter. You need to kill this guy first so that you have the ability to go this, like, from the top of this, either this block or, like, all the way over on the snipe area, and from steps at the same time. Like, you need access to both of these entry points, because in order to clear the tower, you need to actually surround it. You can't stop a tower push by just fighting from one side, and that's kind of what you guys are trying to do here. Now, I don't actually... The other thing here is that I'm not actually sure whether this is just like an overheat moment where you guys just have a bit of a brain fart and you're like, okay, we're going to defend the tower, and then you kind of realize, like, around about here, like after you've dropped down and it's already too late, oh, hang on, we shouldn't have done that. In fact, I'm almost wondering if that's exactly what happened, right? Like, it sort of seems as though there's maybe even there's a call on the K-Gal and you guys know you have to go deal with him, but then you're sort of like not thinking about how to deal with him. Like you're not thinking about getting an advantage over him, just getting him the heck out of there, making him sort of want to run in and make a mistake, right? I said making a mistake. I mean like making him like forcing him into a bad situation, not forcing him to make a mistake. And then at this point, it's just like you should have jumped out about 10 seconds ago, and now because you've died like way later. Now the enemy team gets to like ignore the hardest part of this defense, which is getting past the people on the stairs, right? And now they're at the sort of relatively easy part. So yeah, and then like again, I mean people are just kind of melting here, but it's also like there isn't really any danger for any of these guys dying on the orange team. Like a roller just dropping down against armored players is not going to do anything. You need like actual shooters to just do damage and quickly kill things. Like geez, what even killed everyone? Someone came in from behind and just kind of died. I mean that's too late. Like that push on the right hand side's way too late. And then the Gluga died to something. Like again, like I'm saying, like it's hard for me to track this. And that's one of the things I'm really good at. So it's like, what the hell? Anyway, so that's kind of my assessment of it. And I do apologize for doing analysis rather than coaching for most of this, but whatever. So let's take a look at this then. So this is kind of the same situation. I think, yeah, it's just snowball straight to 0. Okay. So first thing, hang on, what the heck? Okay, so yeah, this was a bit of a problem. Yeah, don't. Again, like I can tell you not to stand next to a wall when you're fighting a K machine, even though I think that happened like 3 times. But yeah, like that's not really the fundamental issue here, is it? Okay, so at this point, like, yeah, jump out, good. At this point, this is kind of where I was going with, like, people are getting into positions to sort of take map control and push or whatever, but then there's no, like, people are doing that, but they're doing it by themselves, and then and then everyone's saying, like, okay, we push now. This is what it felt like here. I don't know if that's actually what's happening, but it's sort of like, people are not recognizing where the rest of the team is coming from, and then that's leading to these sort of really fragmented pushes. Plus, like, let me just see what the hell's going on here on this left hand side. Yeah, okay. So yeah, no, don't be doing that. What when your team? Okay, let me start over here. Your team's already being pushed in at this point, right? Like, you're on defense mode and the enemy team's already at 80, right? You're basically starting to defend the tower when the tower's already past the first checkpoint. There is no defense being mounted against the first checkpoint because the person is already on the tower and pushing it while you guys have 2 down. And then you're realizing that you gotta jump out, like, now. And then meanwhile, because the Flingzer is jumping out and the Mini is dead and the K-Glue is the only one left over, the only thing the K-Glue is going to do is throw fizzies, which means that the enemy team there's nothing like stopping the enemy team from pushing forward. There's no, like, bombs. Fizzy is not a lethal bomb, I don't fucking care. There's nothing like stopping the enemy team from just walking forwards, basically. And then by the time people are back up, okay, now they're starting to clear the checkpoint. There's no specials, there's no bombs to, like, stop them from just standing on the tower and moving forwards. And, like, you're not, like, I haven't even seen an enemy player from this perspective. So, like, if you're gonna defend as a group, like, there should be a call of, like, we're gonna defend from this side, you know, we're gonna defend from that side. Or build specials, activate specials, like, that kind of stuff. What am I saying? basically there's like no information being gathered here. There's very little in the way of like finding where the enemy team is, and then sort of, like I said, understanding what they're doing, and then like forming a kind of counterplay to it. Jeez. Like, I'm not even seeing the enemy team. People are just kind of dying, and there's no like. It's sort of. I think the way I'd describe it is, it sort of feels as though you guys are. For example, I think this happened a lot on Skipper. There'd be like a call to push on account of the fact that you guys have specials, whatever. But you would use the specials, and you would just assume that gives you an advantage, right? And you don't play to. Like, it might give you an advantage, but you're just assuming that you have an advantage, and you don't really seem to, like... It doesn't really seem to inform your gameplay, the advantage that you're getting, right? But then again, maybe that's just a side effect of playing, like, a double missile kind of comp. Anyway, we'll move on to the other part of the defense here. Because this was the knockout, right? So again... Okay, so you guys have died, and now people are only just respawning, and Tao's already sort of at the checkpoint. It kind of feels as though the defense is divorced from the objective. I think that's. I really am sorry for not being quite as. I guess, coherent as I ought to be, but like, the defense, you're setting up a defense on the left-hand side. The Tao's going to be pushing right. But there's also no threat of, like, coming in from the side. Like, you're not taking the left-hand side while the Tao's on the right. It's sort of, I'm not really sure how to describe it. It's basically, like, aside from saying, like, it's just not connected to what the objective's doing. It's not connected to what the enemy team is doing. And yeah, it sort of all falls apart at that point. Anyway, we'll move on to this zones game. So. This was the one where we'll just go straight to it. So on this retake, right? Like this was just sending me for a loop. So this retake, right? I can 100% see what you're doing, and it makes sense. Enemy team, the K machine feeds. He just walks in and dies. Now, the death to the bomb is really bad. Dying to the worst thing you can die to in the game is a bomb, or falling off. Anything where the enemy team is basically not committing a resource to kill you, resources including things like, revealing a flank or whatever. Anything, like a bomb kill means the enemy team has just thrown something and is doing something else, and then they just get a kill. Alright, so this death was very bad, and there were a couple of other bomb deaths as well, so maybe, checking your feet might be on the cards, but again, it's just like, okay, I'm telling you to check your feet, what good does that do? And then you go in, but I mean, look at this map, dude, like, this is not a map you can push onto. Maybe you could have done it if the Flingza was alive and able to sort of paint out to the tree or something like that. This is not, you can't push this. The enemy team knows where you're coming from, even if it's now, like, even if it's a 3v4, even if you take the bomb kill out of the equation, enemy team knows where you're coming from, like 100%. And not just in a, there's just no way in here. You've used one special, there's no way to, like, take the parts of the map you need to take, because the enemy could be anywhere. You haven't got info, like, you're pushing too soon, you don't have info on where they are, you don't have specials to flush them out, like you've used a missile. And like the frustrating thing is that I don't think you would have pushed if not for the fact that the K machine fed. So it's like it's breaking my brain looking at this game, and not because you guys are playing badly or anything. It's just like, holy moly. I can completely understand why you did what you did, and the fact that you died to the bomb on top of this, it's like, enemy team screws up, you're making a push you probably shouldn't do, but the enemy team gave you the push, so go for it, I guess, but then you died to a bomb, so it's all... It hurts. It actually hurts. It physically hurts to think about what's going on here. And then, of course, you fail the push because, of course, you do. That's another thing, by the way. The bubbles... Because of this, your bubbles are being activated too far from the zone, so the... I mean, I think the bubble usage just needs a lot of work in general. Let me go back to this map. Here we go. So the issue that was going on here was like the bubbles are sort of being activated like all the way back here, and they aren't going to go far enough to actually clear the zone, if that's the intent. But at the same time, if you go in with the bubbles, keeping in mind that again, the team has kind of like found their way into a position that they want to move in from, and then you've got the call to push and you're doing your coordinated like everyone go in, but then you end up like split like this, and this is a problem because the bubbles are going to go in here. The most you can do with them is clear like this area, which you don't even know if there's anybody there, so these are blind bubbles. They're not actually going to necessarily get any kills, and in fact I don't think they do. And chances are you're going to get shocked. So the bubbles are going to be a wash. And then on top of that, even if the bubbles did do something, the mini is in Narnia. So there's not going to be any zone cap that comes out of this. But again, it all comes back to, like, if the flings is there, maybe it's okay. It's just... Yeah, this one's... Also, like, when you did finally get back in, right? This was later, after someone had confidently declared that the game was over. It was like, was it here? What'd you die to? This was a death to a bomb, right? Oh, wait, no, there's, yeah. Okay, this was the overheat moment. Yeah, no. When you're holding on zones, so let me. Jeez, come on. When you're holding on zones, going up here like is literally. I think that's even the exact spot that the K machine died. Like the K machine died back here. You don't have people up here. You're not trying to kill them up here. If anything, you kind of want them to be up here because then you can sort of start tracking them and you can kind of funnel them into like the tree area and then just like launch a bunch of specials at them. Whereas it seemed like you were kind of trying to do was get up into their car and try to spawn camp them, but you didn't have the timing for it. Again, comp is partly at fault here. Comp kills too slowly to actually get into these positions, unless... Like, the only way that your comp ever is going to spawn camp successfully is if the enemy team, like, dies here. And all at once at that. Like, if all four of them are retreating like this, and they just all end up in a pile right here, and, like, flings a moves in and just steamrolls them, right? It's the only way you're actually going to get into a spawn camp with any kind of consistency. So you're not trying to go for that. Let me see what the map looked like when you actually went for this. So... Okay. Jeez. So this is a bit late, but I'm just looking at this and I'm thinking there isn't really much that's stopping them from going in right now. Because, and not just because you've lost a player, but also because it's like, and again, another problem with team comp, everyone on your team plays overtly, everyone on the team is visible on the map. Like, whenever these guys are playing, like whenever these guys are coming out of their base and they're looking into mid, they're seeing 4 players at all times. And this goes on most of your maps. I think the only time you've had any weapon that was like remotely covert was like the NZAP. And sometimes when you play Flingza as a Splat Roller, right? Like or a Sharky Roller, I should say. Those are the only times you have like covert presence on the map where like the enemy team has to think about, you know, where could this guy be, which makes it really easy for people to plan retakes. And okay, yeah, jumping in on top of a splat bomb wouldn't help matters either. Like, there were a bunch of just bad deaths in this, which I think the first like falling onto a splat bomb was a bit silly, but that one, and I mean jumping in when you probably shouldn't. But at the same time, like, the fact that they cost you the game was definitely a little bit unlucky. You shouldn't have done it in the first place. Like, you should have been managing that potential bad luck, but also just, yeah, anyway. And where was the other retake? Okay, so this was the other retake. This was, okay, yeah, this was just a bit of a whiff. And then the enemy team just kind of cuts through you. This is what I mean about the comp speed, by the way, or the weapon kill speed. Like, the gal gets a kill up top, and then just runs into someone, but because it's a gal, they can just shoot them, right? Imagine if a mini runs into someone. It's like the mini has to spool up for a moment. Like, it's still fairly quick, but it's enough of a delay that it's a problem. Right? And then it's just like, okay, now we're running straight into people. Like, was it unlucky that you missed these kills? Sure. But, like, a lot of the time when you die like this, it's a symptom of a problem, right? It's not that, like, most deaths where it's like, oh, my aim was off, are deaths where you shouldn't have been in a situation, oh my gosh, shouldn't have been in a situation where, where is my, there it is. You shouldn't have been in a situation where the aim was going to be the factor in the first place, right? That's typically how you look at deaths like that. But yeah, so again, I really do feel bad about this review, like, because I'm telling you a bunch of stuff that I don't know. Firstly, I don't know whether you guys are willing to like make changes to the comp, because like I'm not trying to tell you to like play some boring meta comp or anything like that. I'm just sort of saying like these are the properties your comp has, and it is holding you back. It's up to you guys how you want to handle that. Okay. And a lot of the issues here, it's hard to separate them from the comp stuff. So like I can give you feedback like, you know, make sure that everyone's on the same page about like where we're going to be pushing in from, or at the very least, it's, sorry, let me rephrase that. It's not that you're all on the same page when you're pushing in, it's that you gather information, you recognize where the enemy team is, where the enemy team is weak, and then based on that, like everyone has access to that information, so everyone's rotating in the same kind of manner with the same end goal, and then when it's go time, right? Like you are already in position to all be coordinated. As opposed to just coordinating the timing, you're also coordinating the place, right? And then on your TC defense, again, like a lot of it is a comp problem, but also like I can point to things like you guys are sort of failing to recognize when you're at a disadvantage, and then because of that it takes you too long to retreat, and then because of that the enemy team gets a free push. You're not holding from your strongholds, you're holding from like way back in Narnia because the enemy team's already taken those strongholds from you, and then that leads into a snowball because the enemy team has like been uncontested through a large part of the push. Which, geez, again, that's another comp problem. another part of the issue with TC is that like you're dying in your own base, so when the enemy team kills you with their K shots and whatnot, they're already in your base to like take control of those strongholds, right? Like look at is this the no, this is the game where you had a DC. So like, okay, to be fair, everyone just kind of died all at once here, and the enemy team just kind of ran in. But yeah. Anyway, again, I really do apologize for this. This is not. I'm not giving you feedback. Like, it's just this VOD review is not providing feedback to you guys. It's telling you what you're doing wrong. I'm telling you what you're doing wrong. I'm analyzing what's going on, but it's really difficult to give you actionable advice here. So yeah, and that's it. But anyway, that's I'm just going to cut it there because I've gone past the half-hour mark. But yeah, so if you're willing to make if you're willing to make changes to the team comp, that is probably the best way to move forward. If you're not willing to make major changes to the team comp, like, and then sort of adding in more stuff that's like able to kill things reactively, I honestly don't know what to tell you. Like, so, you know, like there would, and I'm saying that not because it's impossible for you to make this work. I'm saying it because the things you would have to do are like really nuanced and fairly like. I'd be able to explain them, but it'd just take like 2 hours, right? And I'm not here for that. So yeah, anyway, look, I'm gonna cut it there. I hope that this still somehow helps, even though, I don't know. And yeah, so, best of luck, and let me know if there's anything, like, please do, just like, if you have questions or you have ideas that you could, of like what you want to be doing, feel free to DM me about it. That's no problem at all, and I'll be able to help a bit more then maybe. So yeah.